Response video to this retard. Yeah, whatever. It calls himself Sharpie. Nah, I think it's Deli. Really dimmy. Oh, look, he's got his little toy gun behind him there. Isn't that cute? Oh, fuck that. So anyway, let's play some of this crap.
Okay, I didn't think I was going to have to take people by the hand and drag them kicking and screaming through this, but it seems like that is my only option.
Go ahead, Einstein.
So let's start from the beginning. There is no objective morality in the universe. You cannot empirically verify morality. We cannot walk up to morality, point to it, and say, hey, look, there's morality. Unless...
Alright, you infant. You can't do the same thing with a common thing, something we use all the time, standards of efficiency. Okay, you can't go out and point to it and say, ooh, there's efficiency. Alright, but it's commonly understood. It's a value equation, and that's what morality is. It's a value equation. Some value equations make sense, some do not. Standards of efficiency to some people make sense. They could say, okay, if I have a car and it gets 2 miles to a gallon, it's efficient enough. So that's their standard of efficiency. But the point is we understand efficient design, good design, like buildings that are durable. You build them, they stay up, they don't fall down, and sloppy design, flawed design, inefficient design. And that's what morality is based on. Okay, it's based on an ethical construct, which is basically a value equation. Okay, retard.
To insert a God into the equation, you have no objective standard by which to judge morality.
Alright, so you're saying that it wouldn't be an objective standard to say, this is your premise, okay, that human welfare, let's even just make it as simple as the fuel efficiency thing. We can objectively understand that the fuel is expensive, that it requires some sort of deprivation, harm, destruction of the environment, whatnot, to extract it or collect it. It costs money to collect it. It has value, and you want to use that value. You don't want to waste any of it. You want to eliminate friction in the system. That's a good word, friction. All right, you can't point to friction. Okay, you identify it, just like you identify value. Okay, it has no physical reality in the terms of the waste in different systems can be quite invisible to anything but something that understands what you're valuing. Okay, so you have to understand what waste is before you can identify waste. But that's the key word here. So to say there's no objective definitions is idiotic. If there's a premise that's even just basic, and the basic premises would be something like, for most people are clever enough to figure out that it seems a reasonable premise that if things are killing people or harming people, it's bad. If it's making people smile and go goo goo gaga, it's good. So you're a retard. A colossal retard.
Is completely dependent on the individual's perspective. You cannot say that having children is immoral objectively. You can only say that it is immoral given your circumstances and perspective.
Well, whatever. It's not a moral question anyway. Again, you people keep wanting to turn it into morality so you can call it a dogma, okay? Morality is traditionally based on some sort of bestowed from above doctrine, okay? Efficiency, value equations, ethics are something that are constructed out of logical extrapolation on basic premises. The basic premises of David Benatar's book are that you can't harm the non-existent, okay, and that's an important fact, okay. You can do them no negative duties, and in essence they can't be deprived of a positive because they have no need for it until you create them. That birthing people is basically creating originating need, and need is not a good thing.
Applies only to you. You can also not say that it is better that an individual never have lived or life itself should never have existed. People like to say that if life had not existed, there would have been no suffering, therefore it would have been better. Well, there would have been no happiness either.
Yeah, well, again, this is the equation. You keep talking, all of you, keep talking as if happiness and suffering are the same thing, and they're not. They're constructed out of different mental perceptions. One is an addiction, satisfied. The other is a native condition of vulnerability to unpleasant sensation. So they're derived through different mechanisms. They have a different construct, a mental reality, and they have a different weight by rational perspective. If you accept certain premises about the basic dynamics of our physical structure and our psychological dynamics. If you don't accept those truths, then you can make up any kind of shit you want, okay? I can't stop you from believing the DNA is God. That's your agenda, retard.
You have to take into account opportunity cost. If life was a net positive, if life existed, then it's more rational to have lived, or life...
Well, it can't be a net positive until somebody can identify a possible need that it serves. The simple truth is the human life is not grease to any part of the universe. It takes away no friction, it takes away no waste, it undoes no harm. It, in fact, creates the opportunity for harm, which is decidedly negative. So on just that simple, cursory look of the basic dynamics, life is going to fail. It is gasoline, and there's no engine to put it into, and it evaporates, essentially. So you're taking a precious commodity, creating harm to create it, and there's nothing to do with it. There's nowhere for our wheels to take us.
To have existed. It's called opportunity cost. If you need to Google that, go Google it now. Stop the video. Go Google it.
Yeah, well, why don't you shove a Google up your little fucking ass, okay, you patronizing retard. Gun nut retard. Fuck nut. Silly hat-wearing fuck nut.
Get a good understanding of that, then come back.
Oh, yeah, it's so exhausting to have to be a fucking propagandist for a DNA molecule. Yeah, it's exhausting your brain to write this crap, then read it in a video. Alright, and do no rational thinking.
It's even more complicated than that because whether or not life has a net positive is completely dependent on the person's perspective.
No, it's completely dependent on coming up with some sort of explanation for what the goop does. Okay, if I'm going to claim that this weird-looking thing, is of value, then I'm going to have to explain what its function is. I'm going to have to explain how it's preventing harm somewhere, or satisfying desire somewhere, or accomplishing something somewhere. And as noted, we do not scratch an itch of the universe. We do not jerk it off. We do not do a damn thing for it, okay? We don't lick its anus. We don't do anything good to the universe. All we do is create a mess, and then we clean up half of it. That's called failure. That's called retarded.
In other words, what they value. Depending on your values, you could say that you see your life as a negative or a positive. You can say that you see all life as a negative or a positive.
Right. This is if you're going to abolish the existence of the premise. The premise is there are two kinds of states of consciousness, okay? Aggravated, harsh, repulsive, unpleasant ones, attractive, comforting, nice ones, okay? We can put them in broad categories. There's stuff down the middle, but who cares? Let's just talk about the two that fall into one of those two buckets. And we all know what bucket some experiences fall into, and it's not confusing, and it's not subjective. It's sort of a premise of rational conversation in 2011. If you don't accept that it is bad to be in a concentration camp, weighing 89 pounds and dying of typhus, then you're too retarded for a conversation. You're just too retarded.
Positive. Both of those concern and apply to you only. Unless you are God, it is impossible to know if another person's life is a negative or a positive.
You don't have to know. All you have to know is the probabilities, obviously. So if you know that there's... You can't say anything for sure, but you do know when you play cards or when you roll dice that there's certain odds that will that will resolve themselves into that reality. Okay, you won't break the odds. You won't do something that can't be done. There'll be a consistency. And that's basically what we go on. We know it's probabilistic that women aren't going to enjoy being raped. Now, there might be exceptions here and there where they say, gee, I needed that. It's a nice little stimulant. But most of the time, yeah, it's going to be a thing that you don't want to do because it's going to cause harm. We can say the same thing about child molesting or drunk driving or stealing I could go into somebody's house and steal all their money. And it might be the best thing for them, because if I didn't do it, they would have got divorced, and the kids would have gotten all psychotic, and one of them would have turned into a serial killer. So yeah, I could have done them a huge benefit. But it would have been incidental, and we know by probability, okay, that would be the rare outcome, not the common outcome. So again, you fail to understand simple concepts like permutation, which is we have many experiences, and over time that those permutations resolve themselves based on odds and the circumstance of probability to certain outcomes that we can predict, we can know with absolute certainty. So again, you fail, you're stupid. Maybe you should take that head off and give your brain cells some oxygen or something, because your brain is failing.
You cannot make an objective claim about the worth of them having lived. If you look out at life in general and say it is a negative, you are either not taking everything into account, omitted variable bias, or you don't understand opportunity.
Well, I'm sorry, that's just silly, right? I mean, there's people born into circumstance that are variant, and you can't sit there and say that every circumstance the person's reaction should be, oh, this is fun and super and fantastic. And that every person should have the same level of addiction. That's silly. It's nonsense. So here you are at 1 minute arguing that there is nothing we can tell, and then now you're saying you know that everybody should value their life, or that every life is worth living. Now, isn't that an inconsistency and absolute nonsense?
Cost or whatever, or your perspective led you to that conclusion. If that last part is the case, I feel sorry for you, and I would suggest attempting to rethink.
Well, I feel not sorrow for you. I feel contempt for you, because your stupidity, your dumb, stupid addictions are causing other people unnecessary and wasted harm, and it makes you pretty much evil. And you're doing it pretty much with volition. You think you're qualified, you think you're intelligent, you've declared yourself capable of articulating and speaking on behalf of this subject. That makes you essentially a propagandist. So if you were to go to trial, yeah, it'd be really easy to convict you, because you had every opportunity to balance your arrogance, to control your arrogance, and to make sure you understood what the fuck you were talking about. But you don't understand anything. You don't even understand the simplest dynamics of value equations in reality.
Think your values. Just keep in mind that conclusion is subjective and is only true to you given your current perspective.
Again, he's basically, for anybody in the audience who doesn't understand, he's basically just said that a Holocaust victim is not absolutely a victim. Okay, it's just basically whatever you feel like declaring it. So if you want to kill somebody and eat their eyeballs, it's okay, because this motherfucker, this idiot, says there's no way to determine whether that's right or wrong, objectively. Because he's an idiot and a retard.
Keep in mind that we as humans have the ability to look out at the world and the universe and make judgments. Those judgments are based on our perspective, how we value things.
Well, the point is that we can judge the logic or reasonableness of value equations, as I stated. And the premises that they're based on. Those things can be judged individually based on the end context. You can sort of tell, like if a building stands up, you know that what it's made out of is probably reliable stuff. So now you can use those same premises in other arguments, because the building has demonstrated the strength of those premises, or those foundational ingredients. And that's the reliability of some things like the theory of evolution. Then we can understand that the mechanism of sentience and understand the positive and negative attractive forces, motivating forces. And we can understand, we can dissect out of that a value equation. We can fill in the variables.
And only applies to us individually, as I have said 10 times in this video.
And it doesn't make it right. You can say it 5 million times, but your subjectivist nonsense is just that, nonsense. It doesn't build buildings. It doesn't have any credibility. There is a rational foundation that underlies our existence, and that is our sentience. That is our capacity to feel things that are both that are positive and things that are negative, and we can give them positive and negative attribution. It's not difficult. It's consistent across the human dynamic. Even sadomasochists have something they're afraid of.
The universe itself makes no value claims. Life is...
You just keep talking as if we're making a value claim from dogma or from God. It is you who are doing that, retard. You are saying a DNA molecule knows what it's doing and has balanced the equation. I am offering to you the contention that it is our obligation to look at the system and evaluate what's getting consumed by it, what is the gasoline, and what is the production. As pointed out, we are producing nothing of value to the universe. So all we have is the negative vice of the harm created to produce our animation. You idiot. You fucknut. You retard. You dumb motherfucking monkey.
It's just part of it, a byproduct of physics just like everything else in the universe. There is no objective value of life.
Well, again, I'm not the one contending life has any objective value. What I'm contending is that only an insane lunatic could not appreciate that sentience has value, that the welfare of conscious beings is important, and that that my personal evidence on this case is reliable. It's the same evidence everybody else has seen. We've all seen it, except for little fucknuts like you who say it doesn't exist. And that's it. A tiny, tiny minority of the crazy loony bitch, who think that, they use their guns to kill people at beauty salons and whatnot because they lose all sense of value equations. They lose all sense of understanding that they can't harm a bunch of other people and have what's called a successful life. It's impossible to do that. Because you're fucking idiots. You're sadistic lunatics that don't understand just even the basic concept of harm. The word harm is a legitimate word, idiot. And you are an idiot. You're just a fucking idiot.
Is completely determined by the individual. There's nothing out in the universe. There's nothing to judge morality by.
There are facts in the universe. Sentience is a fact. The sensation of positive and negative conscious, the experiencing of positive and negative conscious states is a fact that is in the universe, idiot. So again, you fail.
There is nothing to judge how to value something by. It is impossible. It does not exist.
Well, again, like I said, just be clear. So anybody listening, if you agree with this idiot, you're basically saying you can't tell that it's wrong to throw Jews in a concentration camp and slowly and horribly torture and kill them.
Completely dependent on the individual. So when someone runs the cost-benefit analysis in their subconscious or conscious and decides to have a kid, they're making the right choice for them.
It's just idiotic. Again, the value has been identified. If you don't accept the premise that the value is in the conscious entity's welfare, then they're obviously creating a new welfare, a new interest. So the interest can't be just isolated to them. The party they're creating has to be acknowledged as something of value. You can't just say it doesn't have value. That would make you a sadistic lunatic. But maybe that's what you are.
They are not responsible for how that child views life or life in general after the fact because it is completely dependent on him or her, that child.
Well, that's just idiotic. You are responsible if you save somebody's life. Every influence you have in the world is your responsibility. You are responsible for the impact of this video. You might warp some sick, deluded, perverted, nonsensical mind and make them say, oh, that guy says there's no value in the world, so yeah, I can go ahead and rape women, and I can molest children, I can do whatever the fuck I want, because I can just make up the truth. Oh, cool. Thank you, Mr. Sharpie guy. You give me license to be an asshole. Super cool. Yeah, you're responsible for that, retard.
It's not even possible to factor that into the decision when deciding whether or not to bring that kid into the world. I hope I have made this clear. I hope...
You haven't... Yeah, whatever, idiot. Again, you're being patronizing and you're incredibly stupid. And it just makes you so much more accountable for your behavior. You're exercising no caution, no humility. You're saying, defy me, prove me wrong. Well, I've just done that, okay? You've said something with this emphaticness, and it's totally destructible. It's totally built out of a house of mush and cards and straw and sticks and nonsense. It has no substantial structure whatsoever. I mean, you're just such a fucking fool.
You all understand. I swear to fucking God, if I get an atheist in here who tries to argue objective morality, I am banning your ass because you are too damn...
Yeah, well, go ahead and do that. I would bet you my guts that you're an idiot, okay? I mean, you're wrong, asshole. You're just fucking wrong. All right? It can be logically deduced from the environmental circumstances, just as we can logically compare the efficiency of vehicles. This is not complicated. What's being consumed is easily understood. What is being produced is easily understood. You, sir, are a fucking retard.
I'm retarded to even participate in this fucking discussion. Without a God, there is no objective morality.
Well, you said that before, and it just, again, you can say it 15,000 times, and it means absolutely nothing. Because as I've stated, it's quite obvious, looking at the environmental circumstances, what the value equation is.
If you want to refute this whole thing, you need to make a video describing exactly how there is objective morality without an objective standard to judge it by.
You don't need an objective standard. All you need is a far enough view of what's happening. And consciousness is easily recognizable, is distinctly different from rockness. Okay, and sentience, the ability to feel, is easily understood as a significant event. It has weight, value, weight. There is an identifiable positive and negative thing that consciousness experiences, decidedly, conclusively, beyond reasonable doubt. Only an unreasonable asshole would argue, okay, that chemotherapy is fun and ice cream sucks.
You cannot do anything else until you have done that.
God, you're just so fucking dumb. But what else? This is why humans are fail. This is why the world sucks, is because these assholes are running free. They're running loose. They're not in some sort of pen somewhere with the other oinkers and mooers. It's horrible. Just horrible. Oh, look at this ad. Ooh, Google's evil. So I'm not going to bother sending them an email. Christian Studies Online. Earn a religion degree or a diploma at home. Yeah, look at the little girl looking up at the... I wonder if God knows that I have a yeast infection. E-learners. Yeah. Well, they might as well do ads for these little fucknuts, you know. Earn a DNA God degree. Yeah. Learn about how there's no such thing as a value equation, and we can't figure out that it sucks to have a knife stuck in your ear. Because it's subjective. Maybe somebody really, really likes knives in their ear. And even if theoretically that would make no difference anyway, because we know that there's some people that really, really hate it to have knives in their ear. So we already know that it's an objective truth that it harms people to have a knife in their ear. Yeah, let's go to school and learn that. Oh, God, I hate people. I hate human beings. I think they all ought to be flushed down the toilet after you kick them in the ass and say, "You dumb motherfucker," and such. Hey, the printer chimed in. That's pretty cool.